What is up? The West Virginia Mountaineers once again overcome adversity to win a Big 12 conference game on the road. Coach Darren DeVries continues with the no excuses mantra, and his players played like it in this game against the Colorado Buffaloes, and they pull out a win in Boulder 78-70. So hats off to Coach DeVries and his staff and those players. What a game it was. It wasn't pretty at all the time. Mountaineers had their struggles down the stretch. Again, faced adversity in multiple ways, which we'll talk about in this live edition, in this live show. But at the end of the day, the Mountaineers come out on tops once again, 78-70. What is going on? Thank you all for joining this live show tonight here on Hoops from the Hills or on the Couz's Corner Twitter channel. Thank you all for joining. If you are watching on X or on Twitter, I recommend that once the show's over, please come over to my YouTube channel over at Hoops from the Hills and check out past episodes. But I want to thank you all for tuning in, regardless of where you're watching. And be sure that to participate in the show, be sure to join the chat. If you want to make sure your chat gets or your comment gets read on the air, you hit the $sign near the chat box. It'll highlight your comment. You can make a small donation, and it's an easy way to support my show and to make sure your comment gets read on the show. And or if you have a question, I'll be sure to answer your question. What's up, Kevin Backus? Thanks for joining, brother. And WVU fan 13 in the house as well. All right, let's go ahead and dig into the show. It wasn't pretty. The Mountaineers, well, first off, before we get too far along, I do want to say I think Colorado deserves some credit here a little bit. Colorado struggled in the first half, committed 11 turnovers in the first half, which is something I talked about in my keys to the game in my preview show. I said Colorado will turn it over. If West Virginia can force turnovers, they win the game. Well, in the first half, it happened. Colorado made a lot of mistakes. West Virginia's defense was playing pretty well. Colorado was careless at times, and they turned it over 11 times. So the Mountaineers went into halftime with a lead. Come out second half, Colorado took better care of the basketball. They pressed West Virginia more in the full court, which caused West Virginia some issues. And they were taking advantage of the whistle, which was extremely one-sided in this game for most of the game. They were taking advantage of that, getting the ball in the paint, drawing fouls, getting to the free throw line, and that's how they kept chipping away at the lead. And when they'd make free throws, they'd get into their full court press. And again, West Virginia was not handling the press well early in the second half. That's something West Virginia needs to work on. There's a lot of good things about this basketball team, but I love their heart, their grit, their work ethic, their effort, their attitude, the whole bit. But as far as fundamentally and as far as on the court, that's definitely an area that they need to improve is handling the press. They did better as the game went on, even though they were fatigued, as Coach DeVries talked about in his postgame, but it did cause them some problems early. What it does, it knocks them out of what they like to do, which is run their half-court sets, run their pick-and-roll plays, and they're not able to do that successfully because they're having to deal with the full court stuff. So I've got to give yes, it is on YouTube, your fave West Virginia, and it absolutely is, brother. I'm airing it on both. It's over on Hoops from the Hills on YouTube, my basketball channel. But yeah, West Virginia, like I said, they knocked West Virginia out of what they want to do, which is running pick and rolls, running their sets. And they do need to work on the press breakers, but I have no doubt that they will. Let's go ahead and jump into the stats real quick. The ESPN stats, like we always like to do, and then, of course, we'll talk about it as we go through. West Virginia stats will be on the left because they were the visiting team, and the right-hand stats or Colorado stats will be on the right because they are the home team. Field goals, West Virginia was 25 of 55, 45.5%, so not terrible. Colorado, 20 of 48, 41.7%. So West Virginia actually shot the ball fairly well in this game. Three-pointers, West Virginia 8 of 24, not quite as good as you'd like to see. Colorado 6 of 19, 31.6%. Free throws, West Virginia was 20 of 28, Colorado 24 of 30. Now, that's a little bit deceiving. Most of those fouls that West Virginia got called, the times West Virginia got fouls called in their favor were it was later in the game when Colorado was fouling them to try to stop the clock. But early on in the second half, man, the whistle was totally one-sided. Every time West Virginia breathed on somebody, they got called for a foul. It was a little bit ridiculous, but we all know anytime Kip Kissinger calls a West Virginia game, that's what we have to deal with. So it is what it is. But West Virginia fought through that. They were able to fight through that, and in spite of that whistle, they were able to come out with a W. It even had 2 guys foul out, which we'll talk about. Free throw percentage, West Virginia 71.4%, 80 for Colorado. Again, hats off to Colorado. They took advantage of the whistle by knocking down their free throws. That's what you do. That's what good teams do. Rebounds, 30 for West Virginia, 35 for Colorado. Offensive rebounds, it was actually tied 8-8. Surprisingly, West Virginia was able to do a decent job keeping Colorado off the offensive glass. Defensive rebounds, West Virginia with 22, Colorado 27. Assists, 9 for West Virginia, 13 for Colorado. Again, I talked about in my keys of the game. Colorado they do a good job passing the ball. They're really good as far as where they are ranked in the country as far as assists per basket made, and they did it again in this game. And I said, if West Virginia's defense doesn't communicate well, if they don't rotate well, if they don't handle the pick and roll well, they could get burnt some. And I thought for the most part, they did a pretty decent job of that, despite Colorado passing the ball the way they do. Steals, West Virginia won that battle 7-4. Blocks, it was 2-1 in favor of Colorado. Total turnovers, 7 for West Virginia, 14 for Colorado. Right here, Colorado was going in the game averaging 15 turnovers a game. They didn't quite hit that number. West Virginia did not quite get them to 15. I even said in my preview video that it wouldn't surprise me to see Colorado get up to 20 or turn the ball over up to 20 times in this game. Didn't happen because Colorado did a much better job in the second half taking care of the basketball. They only committed 3 turnovers in the second half. They played good basketball in the second half, I thought. But on the other hand, West Virginia, despite that pressure that they did struggle to handle at times, they weren't turning the ball over necessarily. They were struggling to get the ball up the court, and it was knocking them out of their rhythm and causing them to rush a little bit at times. But it wasn't a press that wasn't forcing turnovers necessarily. But West Virginia, as far as turnovers go, handled the press okay. They just need to do a better job of getting the ball up the court a little bit quicker so that they can run their offense, in my opinion, or do a better job of getting points off the press, like fast break points. That's another thing they could improve on. But overall, they took care of the ball well and didn't try to force the issue. Points off turnovers, 12 for West Virginia, only 2 for Colorado. So even though West Virginia turned it over 7 times, Colorado only got 2 points off those turnovers. That ended up being a huge difference in the game. West Virginia wins that by 10 points, and they win the game by 8. So that was a huge difference. Fast break points, Colorado wins that 13-10. Points in the paint, 32-26 in favor of the Mountaineers. Fouls, 24-22. West Virginia committed 2 more fouls. But again, or at least a large portion of Colorado's fouls were late in the game when they were doing fouling on purpose to stop the clock. I know there were at least 4 or 5 during that time frame. Technical fouls, there was the one technical on Javon Small for taunting. And then West Virginia actually got up to a 14-point lead at one time early in the second half after Javon Small hit those 3 straight three-pointers. And I thought, man, West Virginia's going to run away with this thing. But Colorado didn't give up. They kept fighting. They kept scrapping. And they kept chipping away at that lead and ended up making it a really tight game. The 8-point gap there, it actually was a lot closer than that, to be honest with you. But, like I said, where West Virginia was getting sent to the line late, they were making most of their free throws, and that kind of made the lead or the final score a little bigger than what the game was. I mean, it was basically a 2-point game going down the stretch, 2 to 4 point game. Let's go to the box score now, the individual stats. Let's talk about Colorado first, since this is a West Virginia show. I want to give a little bit of shout out to the opposing players on the opposing team. Julian Hammond III, he was one player I said we need to watch for. Had a great game, 23 points, 4 rebounds for the guard, Julian Hammond. Made 6 field goals and 3 3-pointers. That was huge for Colorado. He was just hard to guard. He was scoring in all different areas, all different levels, all 3 levels. He was scoring the basketball. It's a good job by him. Played 30 minutes in the game. Then you've got Asane Diop, who scored 13 points, pulled down 5 rebounds. You've got R.J. Smith with 3 points, Andres Yamakovsky with 8. I thought West Virginia did a pretty good job of holding him in check. And then Trevor Baskin with 9 off the bench. Bangot Dak had 4 off the bench. Sebastian Rancic had 2. And Javon Ruffin made some good plays off the bench. He had 5. And Harrison Carrington, the former walk-on, had 2 block shots in the game. So kudos to him. They were both clean blocks as well, I thought. So kudos to him on that. But looking at West Virginia, obviously Javon Small did his thing. Carried this basketball team once again, 26 points on 6 of 17 shooting, 4 of 10 from 3, 10 of 12 from the free throw line, 7 assists, 4 rebounds, a steal, a block, just does it all. Javon Small continues to do it all, continues to do a great job running the team. Played 38 out of 40 minutes, so again, he didn't get a whole lot of rest. Just kudos to him. And I want to say something real quick. I don't know who it is that decides who gets on the John Wooden watch list for the Player of the Year in college basketball. But the fact that Javon Small is not on that list is an absolute is insanity. It's an absolute disrespectful. It's a slap to the face. It's a punch to the gut. It's astonishing. Whatever words you want to use, it's ridiculous. He's averaging right at 20 points a game, leading scorer in the entire Big 12 conference. This arguably the second or third, at least third best conference in college basketball. And he's leading that conference in scoring, and he's not on the Wooden watch list. And not only that, he's also leading his team in assists, and heck, he might even be leading them in rebounding. I don't know. But he's running this basketball team, and I don't even think it's arguable. Right now, he's playing at a higher level than any player in the Big 12 conference, and he doesn't make it on that list. I'm not saying he needs to win Player of the Year. But for him to not even be recognized and be put on the list out of, I think there's like 20 or 25 players, is an absolute travesty, in my opinion. And somebody needs to get it corrected. West Virginia players, you go back the year Kevin Jones got screwed out of the Big 12 player or Big East Player of the Year award, led the league in blocks and points and didn't get it. You go back to the year that Stedman Bailey got screwed out of the Biletnikoff award, led the country in what? I think he wasn't even close, led the country in receiving touchdowns, was one of the tops in yards, one of the tops in receptions, and got screwed out of that. Will a West Virginia player ever get recognized for an individual award ever in national sports? Ever. In two of the major sports anyway. What do they got to do to get named, even get recognition for it? It's frustrating. I'm not going to lie to you. Anyway, I wanted to rant about that. All right. Eduardo Andre, another nice game for him, 12 points, 4 steals for the big man. How about that? 4 steals for the 7-footer. Also pulled down 4 rebounds. You've got Jonathan Powell, 10-point performance, all 10 coming in the first half, 2 of 5 from 3. And how about this guy right here? Here's the one I want to talk about. Joseph Yesufu plays 28 minutes in this game because of foul trouble by some of his teammates, Sincere Harrison most notably. Joseph Yesufu, and because of the injury to KJ Tender, Joseph Yesufu, the 6-year senior, being relied upon to play more minutes than normal, struggled in the last game against Arizona, didn't play his best game, comes out in this game, drops 18 points against Colorado. And were it not for his performance today, West Virginia does not win this basketball game. They've needed somebody to step up and kind of take Tucker DeVries's place. And it may have to be a team effort. It may have to be a different guy each night. Javon Small is going to do his thing. You need somebody else to be that second scorer. In this game, it was Joseph Yesufu. 2 of 3 from 3, 6 of 9 overall from the floor, 4 of 5 from the free throw line, 18 points, 3 rebounds, 2 steals. Just an absolute awesome performance by Joseph Yesufu. Hats off to that guy. What a game. What a game by the veteran, the unselfish teammate that he is. Comes in off the bench, plays starter-like minutes, and puts in 18 points. And again, I talked earlier in the show about the controversy, or not the controversy, but and I'll get to the chats here very shortly, by the way. But I talked about the adversity that West Virginia had to overcome, including a whistle that was one-sided almost the entire second half up until the end. They're down 3 guys, including 2, including their second leading scorer in Tucker DeVries. Looks like he's probably going to be out for the year. Jaden Stone, who was also going to be relied on to be a scorer for this team, hasn't even played a game yet. It looks like he may not be back. Who knows? Then KJ Tenner goes out. He's been out for the last 2 games. The backup point guard to Javon Small, the one who usually gives him a little bit of a breather. He's out now. He's been out 2 games. And then not on top of that, you have 2 of your starters, Eduardo Andre and Sincere Harris, foul out in the game. And another, your 6th man and former starter, Amani Hansberry, have 4 fouls on him in the game. And yet you have, again, officiating wasn't going your way. The game seemed to be spiraling out of control a little bit for you, but yet they never got rattled. They kept their poise. They hung in there, and they never let Colorado ever get a lead in the game, even despite all of that adversity. And I think this team just continues to play with an edge. They continue to play with confidence. They continue to play with an effort and an attitude that is just true blue Mountaineer basketball. That's all there is to it. Coach Darren DeVries has the team playing just I don't think any of us ever imagined this team. What are they now? 12-3 on the year, I think. Something like that. How many of us envisioned that coming in? Yeah, they're 12-3, 3-1 in Big 12 play with 2 road wins over Kansas and now a Colorado team. Oh, and to add one more thing to the adversity, they had travel issues again because of weather. They were late getting into Boulder last night. They did at least have time to have a practice this time. So add that into the fray. So just one thing after the other they're having to deal with, and they continue to figure out ways to win games. Yes, the Arizona game didn't look good. It was ugly. They just didn't play good. But Arizona's also a very, very good basketball team. So you've got to take that into consideration. They're better than Colorado. And I knew West Virginia needed to get this win. They needed to get this win against Colorado in an environment that's hard to play in because of the elevation, which is the other thing I meant to mention. You have to travel away, 2 hours out of your time zone in bad weather. You're behind. Your body clock gets screwed up a little bit with the 2-hour delay or the 2-hour time difference. And oh, by the way, you're playing in high altitude, which makes it harder to breathe, and it's harder to, play as many minutes as you'd like to in some cases. They still figured it out. So just really, really proud of this basketball team and how they persevere week in, week out. Shout out to Ronald Wells. Thank you, Ronald Wells, for the $20 donation, man. It means a lot. I really appreciate the support. I didn't see a comment with that, but if you want to drop one, there it is. You dropped one later. It says, great game, Couz. Kind of ugly, but another win on the road. Absolutely, Ronald, and we will take it. Again, who saw this team with a new roster and a new coaching staff sitting here at 12-3 and 3-1 in the conference on January the 12th? I didn't. I don't think many of us did. Now there are probably going to be some more nights like the one we saw against Arizona, unfortunately. But there's also going to be nights like this one where they pull out W's. Got another super chat I want to get to from Jake T. Jake T, thank you for the donation. He says, tough game, but it worked out in the end somehow. Not a fan of the goaltending penalty being reviewed over 3 minutes after the fact. Didn't know a call could be reviewed that long after it happened. Jake, I didn't either, man, and I thought it was pretty obvious. I mean, the defensive player cannot jump up and grab the rim when the ball's in the air. And that's, obviously what happened. It was obvious. It was blatant. It wasn't even, why did they even have to review it in the first place? That's what I'd like to know. And like you said, the fact that it was 3 or 4 minutes later, it disrupts the game, man. I tell you, the announcers kept talking about how good that officiating crew was. Every time Kip Kissinger refs a game against West Virginia that West Virginia plays in, they have to overcome a foul discrepancy just about every time or terrible calls. He is one of the worst referees I've ever seen, ever. He's horrible, absolutely horrible. It's just the officiating in college sports overall is bad, and it needs to be fixed. Referees need to be held more accountable, in my opinion. And I also think, in most cases, they need to be paid a lot more money. Now, I know in football, it's up to the conferences to pay the officials. I'm not sure how it works in basketball. They may be employees of the NCAA. I don't know. But, man, something needs to change, and they need to get – their officials need to do a better job of calling games because it's crazy. How a guy can stand straight up with his arms in the air and not move and get a foul called on him is beyond me. And it happened to Javon Small today. Yes, it is reviewable, but not why do they review it 3 or 4 minutes later, WVU Fan 13? That's the question. And you make a great point as well about this tough stretch coming up with Houston, Iowa State, Arizona State, and who's the other one? You put Arizona State twice. But, yeah, and then they actually play Houston twice in like a 10-day period. So it's, man, this stretch coming up, and they're not even going home. They play Houston on the road Wednesday night. The team's not even going to go – they're not going back to Morgantown. They were going to fly from Boulder into Houston, spend a couple days in Houston, which makes sense. You know, there's no reason to fly all the way back to Morgantown and then all the way back to Houston. It just probably messes up their body clock even more. And, you know, it's more expensive. And it's just, you know, harder on the players and the coaching staff to do that. So to have to turn right around and fly out again on what, Monday or Tuesday wouldn't make a lot of sense. So, but yeah, great game, Ronald. I agree with you. But yeah, this team, man, I just again really proud of them. Really proud of the heart and hustle and effort they play with, the no excuses attitude. Got to continue to give them a shout out for that. Real quick before I forget, I don't know if you're on X or Twitter. If you're watching this on X or Twitter, you're obviously watching it through the Couz's Corner page that I have. I also have a Hoops from the Hills Twitter account at @hoops_hills304. I recommend you please, or ask that you please come over and follow me over there too, because I do try to tweet out things during the game and give my thoughts on West Virginia basketball. Sometimes even some stuff on the women's side. So please follow me over there. And I'll obviously, again, the Hoops from the Hills YouTube channel. For those of you watching on X, come check me out over on YouTube once the show's over. Thank you to Kevin Backus, I mentioned WVU Fan 13, to Cody Brown, who's watching on X. He says the strategy in the second half has been pretty clear. Get to the bucket and get WVU in foul trouble. Colorado and Oklahoma State saw more whistles than an old Steamboat Willie episode. Yeah, it's a great point, man. And, you know, anytime you have a team that lacks depth like that, and I can tell you something else that's going to be on the scouting report is full court pressure. Any team that plays West Virginia, if I'm their coach, I'm like you said, Cody, I'm taking it to the rim to draw fouls, and I'm making them go full court because you're going to try to wear them down, take advantage, especially if you're a team that's deep. Some teams may not be deep enough to run full court pressure most of the game, but if I have 9-10 guys in my rotation that I can play, I'm pressuring West Virginia the whole game. After every made shot, I'm putting full court pressure on them, and I'm making them foul me. And I'm getting in, trying to get into their bench, get to some of the walk-on guys and some of the guys who may struggle to defend and things like that. That's what I'm trying to do. And it may just work. It almost worked for Colorado. But again, West Virginia, thanks to Joseph Yesufu, stepped up and made some plays. Javon Small, again, carrying the team. Some other guys made play, making Jonathan Powell, or not Jonathan Powell, but Eduardo Andre, you know, just go down the list of different guys making plays for this team when it counted. Jackson Clark in the house has seemed like a game in Allen Fieldhouse. Those refs were abysmal. I agree. John Kelly, solid real win today. Love how our guys fight. Snowman 1999 says, "Sup, Couz, I'm tired of having to beat the refs to win games." Your fave West Virginians in the house. Lynn Fredericks in the house says they got a lot of calls or it wasn't close. Yeah, I don't want to say it wasn't close, but it definitely made it closer for sure, Lynn. I don't want to overlook the fact that Colorado's game plan in the second half was really good, I thought. Again, I think I mentioned that earlier in the show. You know, the full court pressure, the taking it to the rim, making them foul me, what they were doing on the defensive end in the half court as well. They were taking West Virginia out of what they like to do, which is run their sets and their pick and rolls and all that. They took them out of that. I thought Colorado did a better job. You know, they stopped biting on Javon Small's head fakes. They started doing a better job of guarding his step back jumper which by the way, he has one of the best head fakes and one of the best step back jump shots I've ever seen at the college level, at least for West Virginia anyway. just absolutely remarkable how he does that time and time again, each and every game. But Colorado eventually caught on to that and started guarding it better. So, again, I've got to give them some props for having that game plan and executing it a little better in the second half. They did get help with whistles. I'm not going to argue that, but they took advantage of that and was just about able to come out with a win. But like I said, West Virginia did what they needed to hang on to the game. How about that Joe Yesufu? Absolutely, James. It was wonderful. H. Bar Farkle in the house says, are they playing enough players to stay fresh throughout the second half? I don't think they can, H. Bar Farkle, because you saw today they tried to play more guys, and he put one guy in the game, and he got burned 3 straight times on the defensive end. He had to take him out, and he didn't bring him back in the game. Just he's playing the guys that he feels like can play against that level of competition on both ends of the court. Some of the guys can shoot the ball and play good offensively, but they struggle on defense. And that's not going to get it done. And, so right now, the answer to your question is yes. I think they are. But yes, they really need 1 or 2 more guys, but they just don't have them right now. Now, once KJ Tenner comes back in the fold, you'll have another guy, at least another guard anyway. But, man, on that front line, it's getting thin. They did Harris Elazovic, I guess, could have played today maybe, but he didn't play. Not sure why. I thought maybe they'd bring him in at some point in the game to try to spell Eduardo or Amani with those fouls, but he didn't. But nonetheless, outside of Harris Elazovic, I'm not sure who didn't get minutes that normally does get some minutes. And obviously with Tenner being hurt. Yep, John, you're right. It was just a matter of time before he popped off. He was good enough to play at Kansas, so he's not a bad basketball player by any means. Daniel Sargent, WVU making 5 more shots is 5 less rebounds you have a chance to get. Absolutely. Great point about the rebound number. Courtney Good, says, is there a chance Tucker still comes back? I worry about it messing with the team chemistry, though. I doubt it at this point, Courtney. None of us know officially what's going to happen. So this is strictly based on reading the tea leaves and things I'm hearing behind the scenes. But it appears that Tucker is probably going to take a medical red shirt this year, because in order for him, if he plays any game from here on out, he's not eligible for a medical red shirt. So, and you can, as long as the team has shown that they can win without him, even though it's not easy. He can give the rest of this season, his shoulder, assuming that's what's hurt, it's allegedly his shoulder. He can give that shoulder or that injury the rest of the season to heal, take a medical red shirt, and come back next year if he chooses and play again. And it looks like that might be the road they're going down. Again, it's not been announced by the school or Coach DeVries or anybody like that, but it appears that's the road they're going down right now. And he can't, in order for them to do that, he can't play anymore. Now, if you see him come out in a game, then you know that the medical red shirt idea is off the table. Scotty Rosenkrantz in the house says, Kevin Backus, I agree. Tucker's knowledge and size and length would probably change everything. WV Fan 13 says, we will not be able to run with Houston. I figure it will be a game like at Kansas. We will have to control the pace of that game. Daniel says, hopefully we got to steal 1 of 2 versus Iowa State or Houston. Be damn good to get both. It would be. And it's possible. I don't count this. I'm not going to – this team has proven to me that they're capable of doing things that I don't think they can do. So I'm not betting against them again. So, but it's going to be an extremely uphill battle. I may not predict them to win a game, specific games, but for them, if they come out and beat Iowa State, it wouldn't shock me. If they beat Houston, it wouldn't shock me, because this team does not get rattled at all. You can see that they're not afraid of anybody. They feel like they can beat anybody, so. Scotty says Houston will be tough. It's hard to be optimistic, but the one good thing with having 4 guys that can catch fire behind the arc, we always stand a chance. That's what I'm going with. And that's right, Scotty. And even Sincere Harris has shown he's not going to make them like Javon Small or like Jonathan Powell, but he can make a 3. He's shown that. And then you've got Powell and Yesufu and Small, who all been shooting the ball well. Amani Hansberry can shoot it from deep at times. West Virginia We Are One says, how about Joe Yesufu? That's why it pays to have experienced guys off your bench. Great transfer portal pickup. Absolutely. Kevin Backus says he definitely was a spark we needed. And H. Bar Farkle says, I believe the Houston game will tell us just how good we are or aren't. I don't know, because I thought that after the Pitt game, too. Got obliterated by Pitt. I thought, man, this team's going to struggle in the Big 12. Boom. Come out and beat Gonzaga. Then they beat Arizona. Then they beat Kansas. So I'm like, well, maybe I thought wrong. And then they have the game against Arizona. So I don't know what to expect anymore, man. I'm just going to try to enjoy every minute. I expect every game to be winnable, but every game to also be losable, because it's the Big 12. It's just the way it is. Taylor Somerville says, do you think Tucker returns soon, or does he take a medical red shirt and return? I think he takes a medical red shirt, Taylor. That's my prediction. According to DraftKings, he's number 21 for John Wooden. Well, they didn't show that on. I was just going by what was shown on the screen today during the game. He did not appear on that list. So, and I think that was the official list, is my understanding. That's what they said today. They said it was the official John Wooden Award finalists, and he was not on it. And I think there were like 25 guys on that list. He wasn't one of them, and I think that's atrocious. H. Bar Fargo says he thinks the Big 12 is the best conference. In most years, I would agree, but this year, when you look top to bottom, as bad as this pains me to say, I think you've got to give it to the SEC, man. You look at what Tennessee's doing. You look at what Alabama's good at basketball now. I mean, heck, Texas A&M's good. Florida's good. Kentucky, like always, is good. I mean, Oklahoma's playing well. There's a lot of good basketball teams in the SEC right now. And then the Big Ten has an argument as well with what's going on in that league. So you could make an argument that Big 12 is or I could make an argument, I guess, the Big 12 is number 2, but I'm going to say they're at least number 3, if not 2, but I'm not quite ready to put them at number 1 just yet. But, it's a matter of opinion. So I don't know that any of us are right or wrong in that. Kevin Backus also thinks the Big 12 is the best conference. Stormy Cyclone says, good win, West Virginia. Looking forward to our game. Man, we are too, Stormy Cyclone. Man, you guys those Cyclones are playing at an elite level right now. It would be awesome if West Virginia can steal one against you guys. Some guy on Paul's live reaction called Tucker DeVries soft edge. Well, that guy's soft edge, whoever that was, because that's absolute idiocy to say that. The guy's had 2 shoulder surgeries, and he was trying to play. He didn't even give it time to recover completely before he went out and tried to play ball with his teammates and play for our state and our school in West Virginia University. So to call him soft edge is, I hope Paul kicked him out of the chat, because that's ridiculous. WV Fan 13 says that's a brilliant and hysterical yes who. 44 fouled and killed. Hesner called at least 30 to 35. Let me see what other comments we got here. Arkansas has Calipari now, but man, they are not playing well. They've got the best roster money combined. They are not winning with it. Kevin Backus says, wonder how long Huggins would have made it through that second half without getting teed up. Not long. I can guarantee it. Jay Bird says, he thinks we could beat Iowa State or Houston at home, but not on the road. He may have already applied WV Fan 13. I don't know yet. Coach DeVries doesn't talk about any of that stuff. He refuses to answer questions about it. He's very vague about it. He doesn't want his opponents to know, I guess. So he keeps everything close to the vest. So anything we say is basically pure speculation at this point, for the most part. Daniel says Small was out of character today. Does he have beef with Colorado? I don't know, Daniel, to be honest. If he does, if something may have happened behind the scenes on social media or something I'm not aware of, but I think he was just playing with a lot of emotion. He's got some confidence now. He realizes that, hey, I can play against anybody in the country. I think he's got the pressure of, having to carry the team on his back, and sometimes his emotions probably get the best of him a little bit. Look, he obviously shouldn't have done it, and I know some of the fans thought it was a weak technical call. I didn't think so. I mean, the rule's the rule, man. You can't taunt guys. And, had somebody done it against us, I don't want it called. I thought it was the right call. But at the same time, as good as he's playing, I'm not going to say a whole lot negative about him. The guy's balling out, absolutely balling out right now. So, he's not perfect. He's going to screw up occasionally, and it is what it is. But yeah, it's a great question, and I don't know the answer. I don't know, Nathan, if Oakley's going to stay or not. I do know he's redshirting this year. I would imagine he's not. I don't think he would do that were he not planning to stay, but who knows? I could be wrong. For everything I've heard, he loves it at West Virginia. I've even heard that a rumor that he has a girlfriend there now, so we'll see. But as far as I know, he plans to stay, but you never know. It's college sports. So he could change his mind in the offseason and transfer. Who knows? Kevin Backus, we really need Tucker back. I agree, but it doesn't look good, brother. Doesn't look good. I think we got another super chat here. Caleb Davis, thank you for the super chat. He says, Arkansas has Calipari now. Yes, they do. And I think I did answer this earlier. They do have Calipari, but they are not winning the way they should with Calipari, despite all the NIL money they were able to spend for talent. So, but that just goes to prove it's more than just about stacking talent. You've got to have chemistry. You've got to have culture. You've got to have the right guys. It's not just about talent. It's having the right guys in your locker room that gel together. Same thing at Kansas State. Kansas State went out and spent a ton of money, and they're right now the worst team in the Big 12. So, or at least one of them. So, yes, you need the NIL money to compete, but you better spend that NIL money on the right people, because if you don't, it's not going to do you much good. And that's just the way I feel about it. Now, it's still a young season, so maybe these teams can still have time to gel, but that's what makes this thing with West Virginia so remarkable. You've got all these teams around the country that are probably more talented on paper than what West Virginia is, and they're not gelling as a team like West Virginia is. And they probably have less new guys. West Virginia's entire roster is new. Hardly none of them have ever played together, but yet they gelled together really quickly because Coach DeVries did a great job, and his staff, I can't leave them out. They did a great job of evaluating exactly who it was they were bringing in their locker room. Yes, they wanted talent, but they also wanted to make sure it was guys who played with the right mindset, with the right attitude, that they got along well with their teammates. They were all those kind of things, right personalities. That stuff matters. And he and his staff seem to be really elite at picking out guys that fit what they want to do, from whether it be, and look at Eduardo Andre. Look how good he's been playing. He talks about how he's been working hard at his game. He's in the gym every day working. He didn't look this good at the beginning of the year. I didn't think he was going to be. When I found out Imani Hensbury was going down, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is not good. Eduardo Andre stepped up. He's played good basketball. Because you know why? Because he cares, and he puts the time in, and he has good work ethic and a good attitude. Because that's the type of people that Coach DeVries wants in his program. Says he made the press conference pretty short today. That's interesting. Kip Kissinger used to be an NBA referee. I've heard some of these announcers say he's one of the best in the business, but boy, he doesn't show it when West Virginia's on the court. Caleb Davis, thank you for another $2 super chat. He says Calipari will win eventually. And that's what I was trying to get to before I got sidetracked. There's still a long season left. And you got teams like Arkansas, maybe Kansas State, some of these other teams who have a lot of talent. They may eventually start gelling. And if Arkansas starts gelling together, if the team with that level of talent starts to gel and get it together, look out. They're going to win a lot of basketball games. But they're already halfway through the season. So they better hurry up and get it figured out, or it's going to be tougher and tougher to get into the NCAA tournament. WVU Fan 13 says the chemistry of this team seems to be as tight as the Javon Carter years. That's a great point. Kansas is weak compared to national hype. I'm assuming you're talking about Kansas or Kansas State, rather. Taylor says, do you think we stay inside the top 25 come tomorrow when the new rankings come out? I don't know, Taylor. It's hard to tell. I haven't seen what the teams around West Virginia did. It may depend. They did lose to an unranked team at home, even though Arizona's a very good team. They weren't ranked, so you have to take that into account. And it was at home, and the team they beat was not ranked. So if they do stay in, it'll probably be around the 24-25 mark. but don't be surprised if they drop out completely. But we'll see. But to answer your question, my opinion, I don't think they'll be ranked. I really don't, but I could be wrong. Shaggy says he doesn't put much faith in the rankings because they're biased. They are biased sometimes. WVU Fan 13 says SEC has 9 teams in the top 25. 1, 2, 5, 6, 8, 10, 14, 17, and 23. Exactly. And that's why I think they're I haven't looked at it, but I'm pretty sure the Big 12 doesn't have near that many. So you had West Virginia in it, Kansas, Baylor, I think, Iowa State, Houston. Was that it? I think that was it, right? 5 teams, maybe 6. I think that's what I counted. Nathan Scott says Ryder Burton went to UAB. Congrats to that young man. Hopefully he'll get some playing time there. Kevin Backus says, I think we either stay at 25 or drop a spot or 2 out. I agree. Jay Burt says Calipari is done now that paying is legal. He was able to win under the table. Maybe so. Don Nealon once said, this is H. Bar Farkle, says Don Nealon once said, it's not about getting the best guys. It's about getting the right guys. Absolutely. I did hear that, John. I did hear that. I don't understand, and I'm not an official, so I hope somebody listening to this that has been. Why do officials change the way they call a game from one half to another? It's a question I've always wanted answered, and I've never heard anybody say. Why don't you just call the game the exact same way from start to finish? I don't understand why you change from one half to another how you officiate a game. That has never made any sense to me. It screws with the players' heads. It throws the game off. It makes the game ugly to watch and hard to watch. It probably hurts TV ratings, to be quite honest with you. But, I don't have any proof of that. I'm just assuming. But I just don't think it makes any sense to change the way you officiate a game from one half to another half. I don't get it. But maybe there's a legit reason. I don't know. Jay Brumfield says untimely technicals have happened multiple times. Got to get that under control. Yes, Jay, the timing of that technical is definitely not great, and I think it's the second time that's happened this year. So I agree. I wasn't a huge fan of what he did. I didn't think it was out of character for Javon, really. I think he just let his emotions get the best of him. But there was probably some trash talk going on, I would assume, and he just, that was his way of talking some smack. But you can't do it right there. And he's actually lucky he didn't get teed up. The announcers talked about it. He's lucky he didn't get teed up there when he pushed that guy off of him with his hands, even though that guy was all over him. Shaggy of WV says, Lenardi has us at a 7 seed. The last time I checked, he had us up to a 6 until we lost to Arizona. Thank you for that update, Shaggy, because I was not aware of that. I knew he had us in the tournament, and I had seen it bouncing back around an 8 or a 7, depending on what you look at, but I hadn't seen Lenardi's latest bracketology. So thank you for that update. Big 12 has 4 teams in the top 25, says WV Fan 13. 3, 11, 12, and 21. Interesting. So I guess that would be Iowa State, Houston, Kansas, and West Virginia was it. Interesting. Wow. SEC's dominating that category, aren't they? John Kelly says Small was definitely feeling a moment in the game. He's an old school player like some of the good players in the 80s and 90s. Those mid-range bank shots are not easy to make that he does. Absolutely, they're not. He can score from all 3 levels. That's why I love to watch him play. He's so fun to watch. Daniel Sargent says, from an official standpoint, to me, you got to stay both halves or quarters the same. You should never change based on players or coaches' attitude. I agree. Saw some people on Twitter quit watching the game because of all the fouls. That's exactly right, Kevin. It's a hard game to watch. There's no flow to the game. The clock keep. It took them 2.5 hours to play that game almost. It should not take 2.5 hours to play a 40-minute basketball game. That's ridiculous. I understand there's TV time. It shouldn't take more than 2 hours to 2 hours and 15 minutes max, especially if you don't go into overtime. And the reason it didn't even go in overtime, it was because of all the stinking free throws. It's ridiculous, man. Put the Wilson in your mouth and leave it. Basketball is winning. Rich Rod is back. What a great time to be alive and a Mountaineer fan. Nathan. Oh, and my Bills won today, by the way. So it's been a good day. Been a good day for this Mountaineer and Bills fan. Bills advance. Got off to a little shaky start there, but they advanced to play the Baltimore Ravens, who've already beat them once this year. Going to be a tough matchup for Buffalo, man. It's going to be a tough game. Small reminds me of Gilbert from last. Yeah, I didn't get the rest of that comment there, Jay Bird. Really good. He is good. What's the ceiling and basement win-loss for this season? I think the basement, I think they win at least. I mean, if things completely go off the rails, when things, I guess, could completely go off the rails if they get more injuries or something, and they only win 15, 16 games. But basement to me, I guess, would be 16 or I'll say 15 would be the basement. Again, that's if things go off the rails. I don't see that happening outside of major injuries or whatnot to more guys. And I'd say the ceiling would be 20 wins, man. I think this team can win 20 games. I really do. I after what they've, and that's going to prove me wrong because I thought going into the season they were a 15 or 16 win team. And here we are in June, halfway through the season, sitting at 12. So I think 20 is the ceiling. With actually, let's just go ahead and I'm going to pull up the Big 12 schedule real quick, and then I'll get off of here. But all right, Houston probably a loss. Iowa State a loss. Arizona State at home they could win that one. There's 13. Kansas State win 14. Houston loss. Cincinnati at Cincinnati will be a tough one, but I think they can win that one. There's 16. Or what is that? No, that's 15, right? 15. TCU 16, Utah 17, BYU 18, 19, 20. I see, golly, I'm changing it. Ceiling is 23 wins. Looking at this schedule, my new ceiling is 23 wins for this basketball team. That's crazy. The floor for me is probably 16, but again, that's if things go off the rails, and I don't think that's going to happen. Gilbert from ISU, in my opinion, both good players driving to the hoop. Yeah, that's a great comparison, Jay Bird. Thank you for that. Shaggy thinks Lamar Jackson will choke. If I'm not mistaken, the game they lost against Baltimore earlier in the year, I think that game was at Baltimore, so that should make a difference. But man, I'm so tired of seeing the Bills get beat by the friggin' Chiefs. I could vomit, but they got to get to the Chiefs first, and it's not going to be easy. All right. Yep, it should be the Mountaineer Maniacs will be back in town. So it should be a sold-out crowd, should be a loud crowd on Saturday. It should be fun. Should be real fun. Ear Val says, if Tucker redshirts, when do we find out? Same for Stone, who wasn't even on the bench tonight. And Tenor, any word on his injury? No, I haven't heard anything about Tenor as far as the other two. I would think, now that it's the halfway point of the season, I would think if they're going to say something, they would say something this week. DeVries kind of hinted at it last week when he said, they asked him a question about, is redshirting guys basically still on the table? And he said yes. So that kind of, to me, was a subtle way to hint that, hey, they may do that, and he doesn't want to pull guys' red shirts unless he absolutely has to. He did say something like that too. So I took that as meaning, unless it's an absolute necessity, he probably won't play Tucker. And again, this is just me speculating. He may not play Tucker or Jaden Stone unless it's an absolute necessity. Now, he did also say Jaden Stone has been dealing with some family issues. So there are things going on there outside of just his injury. So who knows when he'll be back, if at all. All right. Well, listen, guys, I'm going to jump off of here. It's almost 10 p.m. here on the East Coast, and tomorrow's a work day for us. My wife gets up really early, so she's getting ready to go to bed. But I thank you all for tuning into this show. Again, if you're watching on X, on Twitter, please come over to my YouTube channel, Hoops from the Hills. Subscribe to me over there. I'm getting real close to 2,000 subs, which is not bad for a channel that's still fairly new and has been fluctuating, going through some times where we weren't putting out as much content as we wanted to and stuff like that. Has gone through changes in ownership, and it's kind of been an up and down process with this channel, but I'm trying to keep content flowing consistently as I can. I'm getting that close to 2,000, but I need you guys to help push me over the hump. If you know any West Virginia basketball fans who like YouTube and would enjoy this show, please let them know about it. I'll really appreciate it. And of course, you guys know about my Couz's Corner channel. I'm hoping to get a video up on that tomorrow regarding the latest transfer commitments. I know I'm behind a lot of the other content creators, but look, I have a life outside of this. I had a daughter in from school over the weekend. It was her last weekend with her, so I wanted to spend some time with her. And to be honest, I just needed a break for a day or two. So if I don't ever take a break, then I'll end up burning myself out. So I don't want to do that. But anyway, and WV Fan 13, I have not set up one yet, a VIP for this channel. I need to. I just haven't yet. It does take a little bit of time to do that, and I just haven't taken the time. I'm trying to get my website redone too. So I've got a lot of things in the works. But I will definitely let you know once that happens. But I do appreciate you asking. Thanks again for tuning in. I appreciate everybody's support. And I guess I'll use the same closing I use on my football channel for now anyway. Q Country Rose.